Hi, this is Melanie for Pardesi Reviews, and I'm here to do a movie review for Sonchiriya, starring Sushant Singh Rajput and Bhumi Pednekar. From the trailer, I thought this film was going to really star Manoj Bajpayee, but he is listed in the credits as a special appearance. He is a significant character in the story, but he doesn't have as much screen time as I was expecting. It's really Sushant Singh Rajput's movie, and Bhumi Pednekar is also very much a major character in the film. Interestingly, although they spend a lot of time on screen together, there is no romance whatsoever in this film at all. So this film was by Abhishek Chaubey, who did films like Dad Ishqiya and Uttar Punjab. This film is entitled Sonchiriya because, I didn't know what the word meant all the way through until the end of the film, but it is a rare bird from the region that this film takes place. A rare, very endangered bird. I think it's also somewhere I saw it's like golden bird. And there's a character in the movie who has the name of this bird, but it's also a symbol of something elusive, something you're searching for, something that you're striving to find, something rare. This film is about dacoits and bandits, or bagis as they're called in the film. This was such a genre of film. The only one that I've ever seen is Shorey, which this film is very different than Shorey. This kind of desert bandit. There's references in articles that I've read about it to the Bandit Queen, and there's a character in the film that evidently is the same one that the Bandit Queen is about, which I'm really, really curious to see that film, because I guess Manoj had a part in that film. So I need to watch that film. But in the same way that Westerns were at one point very popular in Hollywood, and there were a lot of Westerns, now they're very rare. And this kind of film about this kind of bandit is not an everyday kind of film in the Hindi film industry. So I don't have all of the knowledge, and I'm not going into the film with the references of all these other films, only Shorey. But I think a regular viewer would come in with that. Another interesting thing is that the characters in the movie speak with a dialect, which even my ear, I'm used to hearing Hindi, and I could tell that there were certain words that the subtitles were telling me what they were, but they were pronounced differently. So the actors really had to learn this local dialect. And a couple of the reviewers were saying that they were relying on the subtitles, at least at first, until they got used to the dialect being spoken by the actors. I think the film itself is, I don't want to spoil anything really about the plot, but I would just say that there's extremely fine performances. Sushant Singh Rajput, I thought, was very good in Kedarnath, but this plot, he's getting to play someone who is haunted by something that he has done and is trying to get salvation, to get redemption. Bhumi Pednekar plays a character who has been living in a difficult situation and makes a decisive act, and she's also trying to save someone when maybe she couldn't save herself. That's kind of a theme of the whole film, is trying to find redemption. I found the whole band of dacoits so interesting. They had their own moral code. They had their own code. To them, they were not robbers. They were not looters. They would go into a town, and Manoj had this sort of megaphone thing, and he would just warning, we're not going to shoot anybody as long as you just hand over the gold or hand over a particular person that we're trying to find. It was kind of, I don't know, it had kind of an odd tinge to it, but it was, of course, Manoj played it absolutely incredibly. They just had their own code. They called themselves the translation in the subtitles was often that they were rebels, and they wore sort of a uniform. At one point, a character mistakes them for being a local police squad or something. It was interesting how the different villagers, this is set in, there's a voiceover where you hear the national emergency being declared, and so that sets the film in the 70s. In fact, I think the year that Shorey came out. This sets this film as a period film, and I guess there were bandits or rebels at that time who then did surrender themselves and then just become part of normal life. And so these stories aren't as heard of. And what I read an article of the director talking about why he made this film, he's just said he found their code and the relationship to the different castes and so forth in their area was interesting, how the people around them didn't necessarily view them as robbers. You know, it was just interesting, this code between them. So there's so much about the rebel group's own moral code, and then the people that they encounter. Each group has their own moral code, and caste is such a huge part of this film. There's a character who is of a oppressed caste, and how different people react to that revelation that this particular character is of the oppressed caste is a key part of the drama. You know, like I said, each group had their own code, their own view of caste, and there's one particular woman character that says to the Bhumi Pednekar character, she says, women don't have caste, we're our own caste below the men. So it was a really interesting statement for this one particular character to make. There were some character actors that were unfamiliar to me, and the best one was Ranvir Shorey, who plays a member of the rebel group called Vakil Singh. And at some points, he is like fanatically just kind of off kilter. At other points, he's a leader. And then just his final reaction to a revelation where he just throws back his head and laughs at the absurdity of their life was one of the highlight moments of the film, and just really fine performance. There's a cop that's pursuing this rebel group, played by Ashutosh Rana, who is someone that I've enjoyed in so many films. Normally he's playing kind of a villain bad guy, and essentially, even though you see that he is a member of the cops, he's supposed to be one of the good guys. You find out he has his own sort of revenge agenda. And it's interesting, kind of the arc of what happens to his character. At one point, Bhumi Pednekar's character asks Sushant, you guys are good guys. And Sushant and the other dacoits that are around him kind of laugh. And she says, don't you think you can be a good guy? Even, so that's kind of part of the examination of the film too. Who is a good guy? Who is a bad guy? Who stands up for what is right? So all sorts of interesting questions and individual moments that are extremely memorable. The cinematography is fantastic. The film is gorgeously shot. It's just this stark landscape. In fact, the opening shot of the film, you're seeing a close-up of a dead snake that a vulture has attacked. And it's so close up on this snake's eye, and then you find out that this group considers encountering a dead snake to be a curse. And then from that kind of sets the tone of everything else. They view their lives as cursed. But just so many interesting shots. Okay, so all of these things I've seen people react to this film on Twitter that is a masterpiece. I don't believe that this is my favorite film of this director. I think it's extremely fine, is of another level. It's more of an intellectual kind of, going beyond the normal action kind of film. There's action scenes that are great, but it's going a step beyond and dealing with a lot of different themes. However, as a whole, I don't know that I found it as entertaining, as an enjoyable to watch as some of this director's other films. For instance, while Uttar Punjab had some very dark moments, there were also some other kind of crazy, lighter moments that kind of gave you a rhythm instead of being more unrelentingly dark. I don't know that this is a film that I'm going to seek out and want to watch again. But it is definitely a fine film, and we're seeing it only played here in Chicago. It's leaving after just a 1-week run, so I made sure that I could catch it before it left. I hope in India it's getting a little bit longer screen time. We've got Captain Marvel opening here, so that's just taking over so many screens. It's hard for Indian cinema here to find a foothold in any of the theaters. This is a film that I think, while it was beautiful to see on the big screen, I think will be something that people will seek out and find once it comes on a streaming service. So if you've missed it in theaters, it's definitely worth a watch. This director is always doing something interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next. And it was nice for Sushant to get a meteor role. You know, he's done some very light kind of things, and this is for him to get a film like this, and especially Bhumi Pednekar. She's such a strong actress. I've loved her ever since Laga Ke Haisha, and I'm enjoying her getting to have such an interesting role. Her character gets to do so many great scenes in this film, so kudos to her for getting such a great part. Anyway, let me know what you thought of the film if you had a chance to see it. Follow me on Twitter at PardesiYT. Subscribe here to the Pardesi Reviews channel, and if you hit the bell when you subscribe, then you'll get a notification whenever I have a new trailer reaction or film review.